I want to talk about proficiency. As a church planter, your leadership skills need to be at the top of their game. And so I want to look at proficiency from two very important aspects. Number one is awareness, and number two is competency, having the skill set to get the job done. If you create quadrants around these two, then you move from low competency to high competency, and then you cross it with another line from low awareness to high awareness, you come up with 4 quadrants related to proficiency that are very important. And to be able to identify each of these quadrants helps serve to know your people better, as well as in your own self-awareness, know where you land as a leader. So let's look at each of those quadrants in order. The first is the UI quadrant, that is low awareness and low competency. The UI stands for unconsciously incompetent. This is the quadrant of trouble. This is the individual who is incompetent and they have no idea they're incompetent. They can cause big trouble. They can wreak havoc in your organization. You either need to get rid of these people or move them up to a different quadrant. The second quadrant is high awareness but also low skill set, low competency. This is the CI quadrant, that is the consciously incompetent. This is the individual that knows they're incompetent. They have high awareness that they do not have the skill set needed to pull it off. But this is good. This is the quadrant of training. This individual can learn. He's consciously incompetent. He knows that he needs to improve. I'll take young leaders in this quadrant any day of the week, because I can easily move them up to the next quadrant. As we increase their competence, we move them into the CC quadrant, that is high awareness and high competence. The consciously competent leader is where most leaders are. Most leaders know their organizations really well. They have the competence, the skill set that they need to pull off the daily activities, and they do it well. They have high self-awareness. They have a high competency, they have a high knowledge of the job and what's needed to pull it off, and they apply those skills, those high competent skills, to make it happen. Like I said, most of our leaders are in this quadrant. Now, although this may seem counterintuitive, I want you to move into that 4th quadrant, that of high competence but low awareness in the practice of that skill set. Listen, the unconscious competent is the visionary transformational leader. He can apply his trade, he does his task, he does it so well and without even thinking about it. It's because he's surrounded himself with the right people, he knows his organization deeply, he knows all the pitfalls, all the strengths, he knows the people at a highly relational level, so when asked about something, he immediately has an answer. He knows how it'll play out even though he doesn't have to think about it. He's become the unconsciously competent leader. This is where you need to be, this is where I need to be. Now, to help you get reference for this, think about a basketball player, right? Think about our professional athletes. They operate in this unconsciously competent realm, in this quadrant. This is the transformer. This is the guy who can work without even thinking about it because of muscle memory. Now, that unconsciously competent basketball player one day started as an unconsciously incompetent basketball player. He went onto the basketball court for the very first time, basketball in hand, and that day he learned just how incompetent he was. He was unaware of it before that moment. But he begins to practice, he begins to play basketball on the court, and soon he becomes consciously aware that he's lacking in his skill set. He becomes a CI. He knows he's incompetent and he knows he needs to practice more. As he practices, as he watches the other guys on the court, as he mimics them and does what they do, he slowly becomes a consciously competent basketball player. But he's still not a pro. The pro moves from consciously competent, knowing their skill set, to unconsciously competent. Trust me, those pro basketball players, they don't think about their moves. They get out there and it's all muscle memory. They react, they act, they perform at a level of precision that neither you nor I would ever be able to attain because they practice so much. They know that basketball, they know the weight, they know the field, they know where they're standing on it at any given time. It doesn't take that conscious thought to process that information. It's reactive and it's powerful. That's where you need to be as a leader. You need to move through these and ultimately out of conscious competence to unconscious competence. And your organization, your church plant will transform in new ways.